It was a quiet evening in the small village of Rivenwood. The sun was dipping below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the cobblestone streets and the surrounding hills. Children played near the fountain in the square, their laughter mingling with the faint melodies of a distant lute. Vendors packed up their stalls, and the smell of freshly baked bread wafted through the air. At the edge of the village, a man appeared, walking slowly along the dirt path. He was dressed in tattered clothes, his face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. His gait was deliberate, his steps heavy. His arrival was noticed by one of the villagers, young Thomas, who was tending to his family's sheep. "Who's that?" Thomas whispered to himself. He felt a chill run down his spine as he watched the figure approach. Something about the man's presence was unnerving. As the old man reached the village square, the lively chatter ceased. People turned to look at him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. He stopped at the fountain and removed his hat, revealing a weathered face marked with deep lines and scars. His gray eyes seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 lifetimes. "I seek shelter for the night," the old man said in a voice that was both gravelly and commanding. The villagers exchanged glances. Hospitality was a sacred duty in Rivenwood, but the man's appearance was unusual, even unsettling. Finally, a kind-hearted woman named Marjorie stepped forward. "You can stay in my barn," she offered, her voice steady despite her unease. "It's not much, but it'll keep you out of the cold." The old man nodded in gratitude. "Thank you." That night, as the village settled into slumber, a storm rolled in. Rain lashed against the rooftops, and thunder growled in the distance. Marjorie, lying in bed, found sleep elusive. Something about the old man lingered in her mind. His eyes, his voice, his silence. In the barn, the old man sat on a bale of hay. He produced a small worn book from his coat and began to read by the light of a flickering lantern. His lips moved silently, forming words that seemed ancient, perhaps forgotten. Outside, the storm grew fiercer. Marjorie decided to check on her unexpected guest. Pulling on a cloak, she stepped into the rain and made her way to the barn. As she approached, she heard him speaking, not to her but to someone or something unseen. "They're not ready," the old man murmured. "Not yet." Marjorie froze. The words were cryptic, but they sent a shiver through her. She peered through a crack in the barn door and saw the old man holding a small, glowing object in his hand. It pulsed with light, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Before she could move, the old man turned his head, his sharp eyes meeting hers. "Come in," he said, his tone neutral but firm. Marjorie hesitated, then pushed the door open. "I heard you talking," she admitted. Are you all right?" The old man studied her for a moment before tucking the glowing object away. "Curiosity can be dangerous," he said. "But you're brave. Perhaps that's why you'll play a role in what's to come." Marjorie blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "All in due time," the old man replied. "For now, return to your bed. Rest while you can." The next morning the storm had passed, leaving the village blanketed in mist. The old man was gone from the barn, but Marjorie found him in the square, staring at the fountain as though lost in thought. "Good morning," she ventured. The old man nodded but said nothing. Meanwhile, rumors about him had begun to spread. Thomas claimed he had seen the man talking to shadows in the night. Another villager, Edith, swore she felt an unnatural chill when she passed him. By midday, a small crowd had gathered around Marjorie's house. "He can't stay here," one man said. "We don't know who he is or what he wants." Marjorie defended him. "He's done nothing wrong. You're all letting fear guide you." The old man appeared in the doorway. "They're right to be wary," he said. "My presence often brings complications." "What kind of complications?" Marjorie asked, her patience wearing thin. The old man sighed. "This village stands on a threshold. Forces you cannot see are converging here. I came to observe, to ensure the balance is maintained. But now I fear I must act." His words only deepened the villagers' unease. Some backed away, while others demanded an explanation. "The less you know, the safer you'll be," he said. "But heed this warning. Do not venture beyond the woods tonight." Despite the old man's warning, a group of villagers, emboldened by skepticism and anger, decided to investigate the woods. Among them was young Thomas, eager to prove his bravery. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew colder, and an unnatural stillness settled around them. The usual sounds of rustling leaves and chirping birds were absent. "I don't like this," Edith whispered. "Quiet," Thomas snapped. "It's just a forest." But then they saw it, a circle of stones glowing faintly in the moonlight. At the center stood a tall, ancient tree with gnarled roots that seemed to pulse like veins. "What is this place?" Edith asked, her voice trembling. Before anyone could answer, a low growl echoed through the trees. Shadows moved, twisting and forming shapes that defied logic. Eyes, dozens of them, gleamed in the darkness. "Run!" Thomas shouted, but it was too late. The creatures emerged, their forms monstrous and ever-shifting. Screams pierced the night as the villagers scattered, desperately trying to escape. Back in the village, the old man stood at the edge of the woods, his expression grim. He held the glowing object in his hand again, its light now pulsating urgently. Marjorie ran up to him. "What's happening? Where are they?" "Their folly has unleashed something ancient," he said. "Stay here." With that, he stepped into the woods. The scene he encountered was chaotic. The creatures were advancing on the terrified villagers, their forms flickering like fire. The old man raised the glowing object, which now emitted a blinding light. "Begone," he commanded, his voice resonating with power. The creatures recoiled, hissing and snarling, but they did not retreat. The old man began to chant in a language no one understood, the light growing brighter with each word. Finally, with a deafening roar, the creatures dissolved into shadows and disappeared. The villagers stared at him in shock and awe. The old man returned to the village with the survivors. Marjorie, who had been waiting anxiously, ran to meet them. "Is it over?" she asked. "For now," the old man replied. "Who are you?" Thomas demanded. "What was that?" The old man hesitated, then sighed. "I am a guardian of sorts, tasked with keeping balance between worlds. What you saw tonight was a breach, something that should never have been allowed to enter your realm." "Why here?" Marjorie asked. "This village is built on an ancient ley line," he explained. "A conduit of energy that attracts beings from other planes. I came to ensure the seal remained intact, but your curiosity disturbed it." The villagers were silent, guilt and fear etched on there. The next day, the old man prepared to leave. Marjorie approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude and sorrow. "Will we see you again?" she asked. "Perhaps," he said. "But I hope you won't need me." He placed the glowing object, a small crystal-like sphere, into her hand. "Keep this safe. It will protect your village if ever the need arises." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the horizon. The villagers watched him go, their hearts heavy but their spirits renewed. Rivenwood would never forget the old man, nor the night they glimpsed the mysteries of the universe.